least this time, it's not just the president taking him to the woodshed. Now, pretty much all the powers that be are. Let's just say the official reaction to former Reagan budget director David Stockman's latest sacred cow bashing bestseller, The Great Deformation, is now mass indignation. Everyone from Republicans who call him a turncoat to Democrats who call him heartless to Wall Street giants who say he's clueless. The Stockman cure for what ails us ain't for the faint of heart. In a damning and ripping critique of both parties and their giant pet causes and programs, Stockman spares no one, warns if we don't get a handle on our spending and our corrupting capitalism, you might as well say goodbye to America. Here now, the man behind this very fair and balanced bashing of every single human being on the planet, David Stockman. I exaggerate, but it was a great book. It's a great read, and
thank you.
Did a great job. And you made mincemeat of every great American that we know. But it goes right back to your days of the Reagan administration and Cap Weinberger and defense and spend, spend, spend. So even then, you were harboring real concerns about what was going on.
Yeah, and that was just the beginning. Now it's 30 years later. What we've done in the interim...
Man, I can't believe that. You're right, 30 years later.
It's drifted. We've gotten to the point where both parties are addicted to the Keynesian medicine. The Democrats have always been for spending and stimulus and so forth. The Republicans do it in a disguised way. They say they want to cut taxes, and you know, that is a great thing in the abstract, but when you riddle the tax code with loopholes to encourage this particular K Street lobby or that one, green energy or black energy or any of the others in between, and you're not really trying to focus on the accounts, spending and revenue and balancing them, you end up playing the same game. So if you have two parties playing the Keynesian game, one with the tax code and riddling it with loopholes, the other defending every dollar of spending, you end up with what I call a fiscal doomsday machine, a budget that can't be stopped. Everything in there is a jobs program. In the tax code, you can't change it, they say, because it's a jobs program. Spending, obviously. We're now heading, I think, towards some kind of denouement that isn't very good.
When you say not very good, you're arguing if Republicans remain resistant to revenues, even though they say they've given on revenues by raising rates, as they just did. The president wants them to raise them more. And Democrats are very resistant to even the president's proposal to tinker with Social Security, as he's going to do tomorrow. Then what happens?
Well, I mean, they're talking about pinpricks, okay? The Social Security COLA thing is fine. It's $110 billion over the next 10 years. I think the size of the problem is 15 or 20 trillion if you have an honest forecast of the economy going forward, not rosy.
You're talking about
scenario.
The debt, the collective debt.
Yeah,
and our unfunded liabilities, which add more to that.
Which I haven't even gotten to that.
Exactly.
But the cumulative deficit for the next 10 years. So even if they do this, and the Democrats are all screaming we can't, it's 1% to 2% of the problem. And there are so many myths built into this now after all these years that it's hard for the system to even function. The Democrats say Social Security isn't part of the problem. Who are they trying to kid? Social Security is running a $50 billion cash deficit every year right now. The trust fund is filled with confetti. You know, those aren't real assets. There's no money in there. It's all been spent on cotton subsidies and fighter aircraft and everything else over the years.
Well, what if you took all that kind of stuff out? If you took all the subsidies and grants, so what Republicans are opposed to, get rid of that. But Republicans say they might even do all of that if Democrats are serious about cutting spending. But you're arguing they would have to do all of the above, like on steroids.
Yes. In other words, if you take the so-called social insurance, it isn't means tested. 55 million people are getting Medicare and Social Security disability combined. It costs $1.5 trillion a year, and a lot of people who don't need it are getting it. And I'm saying a little pinprick like COLA is not even beginning to face the problem.
So you would means test a lot of these entitlements.
And Social Security, Medicare, I would means test it heavily. I would take off millions of people or cut their benefits back dramatically who don't need it, reserve it for what we can do for those who have no other source of income.
That should go well. That should go well.
No, but the point is, I know it won't happen, but the reason I'm saying it is to provide a marker as to how far off base we are. If we don't do big things like that, or have a major demobilization of defense, or have some new revenue source like some kind of sales tax on consumption, which we really need.
Wouldn't all those taxes, and you hint as much in your book, be a depressant in and of themselves.
Yes, they would.
So you wouldn't get the revenue, you think?
Well, no, in the long run, the economy, in the middle term, I should say, the economy is going to suffer because there's no way you can withdraw all of the deficit spending by raising revenue and cutting spending without slowing down the economy. We're living on borrowed time. We're passing out money.
So you slow down the economy, you're going to slow down the revenues you expect to get.
But that's where we are. In other words, austerity.
So there's nothing we can do to boom our way out of this.
No,
no way.
No way. There is no way to grow out of this. The debt burden is too high. The gap in the budget, 24% on spending, maybe 16 or 17% on revenue, is so vast that if we keep rolling forward, this debt we have now at 17 trillion will go to 30. It'll go to 150% of GDP.
People
Sooner
hear
or later,
this and say, well, they've been saying that for years. What's the big deal?
Because we've been drifting in that direction
Understood.
for a year, and the Fed is buying all the debt, or half of it right now. And if you think that you can print your way to salvation, if you think $85 billion worth of bond buying a month is sustainable, then don't worry about it.
Well, it keeps a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, right?
Even that is
But could I ask you,
debatable.